Hatuikulipi, prior to the lunch break, you took us through the affidavit of Mr. Juliuson. And you basically also testified concerning why Mr. Stephenson brought or made these allegations against you. But when we were at paragraph 11, are you there? Yes. Mr. Juliuson referred to a number of other affidavits of Christian Yema, Bill Yalom, Jackie Thiat. Have you read those affidavits?
Yes, I did, my lord.
I want us to go through a few of those affidavits as we proceed and lead evidence on Mr. Joanna Stephenson and his motives. So in that bundle, I will first draw your attention to number 7. No. Number 6. Better yet, let's start with number 5.
Okay, my lord.
Number 5. Yes. Can you please identify the document for us?
My lord, it's an affidavit that was filed in the POCA. Case number HCMD-CIV MOT POCA 2020/00429. The Prosecutor General against Ricardo Gustavo and the others.
You're also listed there as the second defendant.
It's correct, my lord.
Let's turn the page. Who's the deponent of this affidavit?
Wilhelmine Ardarsson, my lord.
My lord, before the witness is taken through the whatever document is before us, I would like to raise an objection that they are referring to it as an affidavit, but this is not an affidavit, because if we go to page 6 of that document, my lord.
Yes. Yes, I'm there.
You will see that where this person who is declaring was supposed to sign, there is no signature. The only signature we have is for apparently the notary public or the commissioners of oath, but we do not have any signature from any person apparently deposing to this affidavit.
Yes. Yes. So it's not an affidavit.
It's not an affidavit, and it cannot be said to be that.
Yes. Mr. Bierkas?
Yes, my lord, I never thought this day would arrive, but I actually do agree with my learned friend, Mr. Ipingo. I see that the affidavit, the deponent signed at the wrong place where the commission of oaths was due to sign. So, my lord, we will not persist with this particular document anymore.
Thank you.
As it pleases the court. Let's then go to number 6, Mr. Hatuikulipi. Please identify the document for us.
This is an affidavit that was filed in the POCA application, the High Court. Case number HCMD CIV MOT POCA 2020/00429.
Let's go to the second page. Who's the deponent of this affidavit?
Bernhard Esau. My lord.
In that paragraph 1, Everson is stating, I am an adult male person, 53 years of age, self-employed as a fishmonger in Walfish Bay, Namibia. I have worked in the fishing industry for the last 30 years, mainly in Namibia, Iceland, Morocco, and France. Can you please take us through paragraph 3 on the next page, as well as paragraph 4?
In 2006 and 2007, Johannes Stephenson worked as a production manager for Fishrot, a subsidiary of the Icelandic company, Sablon HF, which was partly owned by NISA HF. In December 2006, Mr. Stephenson hired me to work for Fishrot as an assistant production manager. At that time, Mr. Stephenson and I both lived together and worked together in Leon, where 4 factories were operated. During those few months, I got to know Mr. Stephenson fairly and well. Witnessed how he was both as a boss and as a person. In May 2014, when Mr. Stephenson had become general manager of Semeji Group, Namibian business, he hired me to work for him on various projects as a contractor for Mer Maria Seafood Namibia. We worked together in Walvish Bay until Mr. Stephenson was fired in December 2016. I spent a lot of time.
Stop there.
Yes, okay.
Do you know this Mr. Everson? Have you met him before?
I met him once or twice, my lord.
Okay. Let's go to paragraph 6. And we can go, let me rather read for you, man.
Excuse me?
I will read and then I will ask you a
Okay.
question. My learned friend wants you to read. But let me lead my case. My main duties were helping with the offloading of the vessels and working in the warehouse. While working for Mr. Stephenson, I noticed some things that repeated themselves in Namibia. One thing being that Mr. Stephenson trusted people very easily. We had paragraph 6, then it rolls over to paragraph, it's still paragraph 6, it rolls over to page 4. Are you there, Mr. Hatuikulipi?
I'm there, my lord.
Yes. Now, Mr. Everson is saying that one thing is Mr. Stephenson trusted people very easily. Do you have any comment on that?
My lord, as I have testified yesterday, that John Stephenson told me how he messed up the operation of his employer, which caused his employer a loss of approximately 2.5 million US dollars. So I have testified that I was surprised for him to tell me or to put me to his confidence, my lord. Now reading what Mr. Everson is saying. He's saying one thing, being that Mr. Stephenson trusted people very easily.
Mr. Hatuikulipi, You said he told you that he messed up the businesses. When was this?
Repeat your question.
When did Mr. Stephenson tell you that he messed up the business?
When I first met him, my lord, in 2011. First
So-
meeting.
So at that time, you did not know Mr. Stephenson. He did not know you,
We didn't know each other, my lord.
but he told you that personal information about himself.
Yes, he did that, my lord.
Okay. Let us proceed to paragraph 7. Please read that for us.
Another thing I noticed repeating itself in Namibia was Mr. Stephenson's problem with alcohol and drugs, and how he seemed to lose control of his work and personal life. During our time in Morocco, Mr. Stephenson will often throw parties where there was extensive drinking of alcohol. I also witnessed Mr. Stephenson smoking a lot of marijuana, most often with his main assistant, Karim Chabone. Furthermore, during those parties, Mr. Stephenson generally paid to have prostitutes come over to the house and enjoy their company.
And at paragraph 9, I'll ask you a question shortly. Mr. Everson goes on to state that in March 2007, I went on holiday to the Canary Islands while the vessels of Fleur de Mer were being repaired. Mr. Stephenson joined the trip. I noticed that Mr. Stephenson had been drunk for a few days straight before the trip, and as soon as we landed in the Canary Islands, he went and bought cocaine in the red light district. This was the first time I saw him taking cocaine. I noticed that Mr. Stephenson got very excited and talked more than usual when he was on cocaine. It's fairly self-explanatory. Do you have any comment on that? If not, you can just say you have none.
None, my lord. It's very clear.
If you go to paragraph 12,
And then, my lord.
can you please just read that first sentence for us? And if you have a comment, you can give a comment.
I explicitly remember Mr. Stephenson telling me about a time where he was arrested in Reykjavik for possession of drugs shortly after the turn of the century. Mr. Stephenson had sat down in a bar in Reykjavik where someone got a glimpse of drugs. He was carrying and called the police. I believe he got a sentence for his drug violation.
Let me just stop you there. Are you aware of any conviction of Mr. Stephenson relating to his drug?
No, I'm not, my lord.
Okay. Now let's go to paragraph 16.
I'm there, my lord.
Can you please read for us the first two sentences? On 30 October.
On 30 October. Can I continue?
Yes, please.
On 30 October 2014, Mr. Stephenson and his spouse, Helena Aflio-Dottir, her cousin, dropped near Runa, Nisson, and I went to Cape Town. Mr. Stephenson had told me we were going on a business trip, and I believe the trip was fully paid by one of the Namibian businesses. However, we did not work during the trip whatsoever. This trip seems to have been an excuse for Mr. Stephenson to drink alcohol and use drugs. During his trip, Mr. Stephenson bought a lot of cocaine and marijuana, which was used throughout the trip.
If we go to paragraph 18, just took us through paragraph 18 and 20, and then you please give us your comment.
In January 2015, I noticed Mr. Stephenson drinking had increased. February, March 2015, I lived with Mr. Stephenson for a while. So I spent a lot of time with him. At that time, Mr. Stephenson held parties almost every weekend when his spouse, Miss Alfleo Datia, was in Iceland. During those parties, I witnessed Mr. Stephenson not only taking cocaine, but also sedative drugs. And I remember Mr. Stephenson seemed to know a lot about what drugs to take to calm himself after he had used cocaine. Additionally, in most of those parties, Mr. Stephenson will pay for the company of prostitutes who will come over and spend the night. I recall one time when Mr. Stephenson and I were drinking together. He told me about a time when he and his spouse, Miss Halfoldotia, went to Netherlands and met with his friend and his wife. He told me the only thing they did during that trip was drinking and using cocaine for 1 week straight. I know that during that same week, Jackie Tiat, who Mr. Stephenson left in charge of the Namibian business while he was gone, was trying to reach Johannes Stephenson, but he did not answer his phone or messages at all.
Any comment? Or is it clear?
My Lord, it's clear.
The Chekitiat there that is referred to, do you know Chekitiat?
Yes, I know Jackie Tiat, my Lord.
How do you know her?
Jackie Tiat, she's a right holder from JB2, and she also used to work with Johannes.
JV2 is Cinco.
JB2 single, yes, my Lord.
Okay. If you can take us through paragraph 24, please. 24. We're still at the same affidavit, Mr. Ipinge.
I'm there, my Lord. On 25th September 2015, Mr. Stephenson and I traveled to Windhoek to meet Lucy in relation to a drying project. Mr. Stephenson told me that Lucy was a good woman and that she could be trusted 100%. Without really knowing her at all, I believe that one of the flaws of Mr. Stephenson as a general manager was that he trusted people instantly without even knowing them. Another example of how easily Mr. Stephenson trusted people he did not know is that one time Mr. Stephenson and I were out drinking and partying in Namibia, and he needed cocaine. In order to get cocaine, he speaks to a man he had never met before, who tells him he can provide him with cocaine. Mr. Stephenson instantly hands the man the key to his company car in order for the man to get the drugs. When he then did, luckily the stranger came back and returned the company car.
You have any comment?
Comment, my Lord, it's clear.
And at paragraph 25, briefly take us through that.
In January 2016, Mr. Stephenson had me working on a project to gain quota from South Africa. On 8 February 2016, I went with Mr. Stephenson to Cape Town, where he met with Mr. James Hatuikulipi to discuss this matter for 1 hour. After that meeting, Mr. Stephenson and I partied for a few days at South and Sun, the Kalinen Hotel. During our stay there, Mr. Stephenson drank alcohol and used a lot of cocaine and enjoyed the company of prostitutes. At that time, Jackie Tiad was also in Cape Town and was constantly trying to reach Mr. Stephenson, who didn't answer, but made me pick up the phone and make up an excuse for him.
Now, you're aware of this meeting, or the supposed meeting that took place between Mr. Stephenson and Mr. James Hatuikulipi during February 2016?
Yes, I'm aware of it, my lord.
If we go to paragraph 27,
I'm there, my lord.
I'll briefly take you through that one. I recall one time in 2016 where Mr. Stephenson, his spouse, Miss Aflio Dotter, and I were invited to a dinner party in Swakopmund in Waterfront. I remember Mr. Stephenson and Miss Aflio Dotter arguing in the car, and that Mr. Stephenson used cocaine before the party to cheer himself up. Present at that party were TAMSON and James Hatuikulipi and Shaki Shongala. Do you recall of such a dinner party in Swakopmund?
Yes, I do, my lord.
And at that particular party, did you notice Mr. Stephenson consuming any, or using, I'm not sure if you say alcohol you consume, using cocaine?
I recall them arguing with his fiancée or his wife. That I do recall, my lord.
And using cocaine?
No, my lord, he didn't do it in front of me.
Okay. And at paragraph 29, Mr. Avison is stating the following, and I will just take you to the last sentence. Mr. Stephenson was also used to hiding his cocaine usage from other people, except me. But this time, I found him talking very openly about his cocaine usage to a helmsman on the vessel Heinester by the name of Wilhelm. I found that very strange. Do you have any comment?
My lord, it's clear.
Okay. And at paragraph 30, Mr. Everson goes on to state in his affidavit, under oath, that later in 2016, Mr. Stephenson lost all control over his usage of cocaine. I remember him ringing me often on the phone and telling me he thought people were spying on him and even trying to kill him. I did not believe him and think he was only being paranoid. During that time, Mr. Stephenson hired a lifeguard, a former Congolese soldier by the name of Christian Yema Yookungo, which Mr. Stephenson considered a friend. Do you know of anything that transpired during 2016 concerning Mr. Stephenson losing control?
My lord, 2016, Johannes has been in Cape Town. During that time that he invited me to Cape Town, he introduced me to this gentleman, Christian Yama, a Congolese man, some other old men. So Mr. Christian once told me, when we met that day, that Johannes has been fighting a lot with his wife. That's all what he told me in Cape Town.
So you met Mr. Christian Yema?
Yes.
And at paragraph 33, Mr. Everson is stating that in January 2018, I met Mr. Stephenson in Iceland, where he continued to talk about people spying on him. He also said that he had been poisoned. I don't believe he was being spied on or that he had been poisoned. To me, it is clear that Mr. Stephenson was delusional and paranoid after his heavy abuse of drugs. During that same meeting, Mr. Stephenson also told me that he had withdrawn 200,000 Namibian dollars from the accounts of the fish shops in Namibia while he was in Cape Town in 2016, before he handed the fish shops over to its rightful owner, Sam Herji. Do you have any comment on that?
My Lord, during my testimony yesterday, when I met Mr. Ale, he told me that Johannes Stephenson has embezzled the money from the fish shop's account. And from what was read now, it's clear, my Lord.
Are those the fish shops you testified that you took over?
Those are the fish shops that I took over, my Lord.
Thank you. In the paragraph 35, he goes on to state, one thing I find particularly strange and contravenes a lot Mr. Stephenson has been publicly stating is that on 27 April 2018, Mr. Stephenson sent me the following message. Fishcore has done well to build a factory for horse mackerel. This is very good for Namibia and the people. Creates a lot of jobs, add value, complies with food security and social responsibility and etc. They have done something which very few had courage to do, and against all the adversity, well done. Do you have any comment?
No comment, my Lord.
Okay. Paragraph 36. He then states that in this message, Mr. Stephenson heaps Fishcore with praises. Nevertheless, on the Fishrot show of Cave Coup, which aired 1.5 years ago, 1.5 years later, after he had sent the message, Mr. Stephenson described Fishcore and the men behind it as fraudulent. Furthermore, Mr. Stephenson stated in an interview with Eagle FM on 12 February 2021, in the end of 2017, early 2018, I take a decision that I need to do something about the corruption of the sharks, in brackets Fishcore and Sam Herji. He then goes on to say that, therefore, it is first of all clear that Mr. Stephenson's statement does not add up time-wise. Secondly, and more importantly, Mr. Stephenson's message to me on 27 April 2018 essentially contravenes what he has later said about Fishcore. At the time Mr. Stephenson sent me the message, he seems to be very pleased with Fishcore's efforts and heaps them with praises. However, a few months later, he considers Fishcore a scam and fraudulent. It does not add up. It is my belief that Mr. Stephenson may be bending the truth to suit his side of the story. Do you have any comment on that?
No comment, my Lord.
At paragraph 39, this is the last part I will take you through. From this last sentence, it's also my impression, after having spent a lot of time with Mr. Stephenson outside of work, both in Namibia and in Morocco, that he has a big problem with alcohol and drugs. And when he is under the influence, Mr. Stephenson seems to lose all control over his work and does things that he should not do or is not allowed to do. Do you have any comment on that?
It's clear, my Lord.
Sorry, are you saying it's clear?
No comment.
My Lord, if there's no objection from the side of my learned friend for the state, I beg leave to hand up the affidavit of Mr. Everson to be marked as B18.
Your objection remains the same.
Yes, my lord, my objection remains the same.
Exhibit B18.
My learned friend is saying his objection remains the same. Is he objecting to the document, or is it still the earlier objection that was already overruled?
Well, if it was overruled, it's the court that ruled,
Yes.
but he holds a different view. That's how I take it. In other words, as far as these affidavits are concerned, he takes a particular stance in respect to them. So that's why I did not expect him maybe to change unless.
Not at all, my lord. We still stand by the fact that hearsay evidence admissible in criminal bail applications or in bail application is only in relations to evidence that will be led at the trial, not this kind of affidavits.
Yeah.
That will remain our stance, and we can proceed.
Lord, I don't want to prostrate here with my learned friend. I do understand his objection, and I thought he would have taken a different view after lunch, but it seems he's still persisting.
Yes.
I hope that he would have consulted some seniors, but let me proceed, my lord.
Thank you. You may do so.
Let's go to document number 7.
Then, my lord,
You can just briefly identify it for us.
an affidavit filed in the POCA application.
Okay, next page. Who is the deponent of that affidavit?
Guna Harol Sen.
Gunnar. Okay. Paragraph 1, he states, I'm an adult male person, 68 years of age, employed as captain of the ship Muslim Tide, owner of Tidewater Incorporated. Can you please take us through paragraph 4 and the first 2 sentences in paragraph 5? And then you can give us your comment, if any.
Paragraph 4
And 5, the first 2 sentences.
or paragraph 5. No?
Yes.
In 2006 to 2009, I worked as a captain on the refrigerated sea water vessel, crew of Addis catching horse mackerel and sardine. The vessel was owned by Fishrot and a subsidiary of Icelandic company, which was partly owned by NIESA from 2007 to 2007. Johannes Stephenson worked for the same company as a production manager. Mr. Stephenson was then stationed in Lyon, where 4 factories were operated. I've been resident in Walvis Bay, Namibia, from 1993. In 2012, Mr. Stephenson moved to Walvis Bay for the purpose of managing the Namibian business of Semeji Group. Having known Mr. Stephenson from our time in Morocco, I visited him a few times in his office.
Any comment?
My lord, no comment. It's clear, my lord.
And then at paragraph 6, if you turn the page,
There, my lord.
Mr. Gunnar then further states that I worked closely with Mr. Stephenson in the years 2006 and 2007. We both worked for a company named Fleur de Mer, where I was captain and he was a production manager. Generally, I would sail the vessel into Port de la Une for it to be offloaded, whereas he would enter the vessel and he would discuss the catch. However, it wasn't until the year 2007 that it came to my attention that Mr. Stephenson had a big alcohol problem. I remember one day, specifically that year, where I sailed into the port with around 650 tons of horse mackerel and sardine. You can skip that part, and then at 8 he goes on to say, the production manager, Mr. Stephenson, was responsible for providing workers with new tubes and give orders to move the fish from the jetty, but he was nowhere to be found. Around noon, I found out that Mr. Stephenson had been in a hotel all night drinking. The hotel was a few kilometers north of the port, so I drove up there and I went up to his hotel room. There I found him wasted drunk, accompanied with prostitutes and speaking gibberish when he should have been at work. And at 9, the last sentence, he then states, later I was told by my superiors that Mr. Stephenson was no longer an employee of Fleur de Mere. Hence, Mr. Stephenson has been fired from the company due to misuse of alcohol and for soliciting. It is for that reason that I was not surprised to hear that Mr. Stephenson was fired from Samherji in 2016. Do you have any comment to that, Mr. Hatuikulipi?
Oh, my lord.
Okay. Lord, if there's no objection, since there's a standing objection and there's already a ruling, can we then proceed just to mark this as Exhibit B 19, as it pleases?
Let me just hear for Mr. Pinge.
Indeed, my lord, our objection still stands against this document as well.
Thank you. Exhibit B 19.
Lord, that is B19,
Yes.
as it pleases. Hatuikulipi, we are almost done with the affidavits. Let's go to number 8.
I'm there, my lord.
Identify it for us.
My lord, an affidavit filed in the POCA. The matter between the Prosecutor General against Ricardo Gustavo, first defendant, and myself, second defendant, and others.
And who's the deponent? Go to page 2.
Ingolfer Peterson.
And take us through paragraph 4.
I began working for Semeji Group in 2009 as an accountant. In 2012, I became involved in the accounting part of Semeji Namibian business. While working for Katla Seafood in Las Palmas, in 2012, I also traveled a few times to Namibia in order to acquire knowledge for Namibian auditors.
Do you know this gentleman, Mr. Ingolfer Peterson?
I know him, my lord.
At paragraph 7, he states, during my time in Walfish Bay, I worked with Johannes Stephenson, who was the managing director of the Namibian business. Were you aware that they were working together?
Yes, I'm aware, my lord.
At paragraph 11, Mr. Peterson continues to state, in this context, it is worth mentioning that Mr. Stephenson himself owned Curry Investments, a company running fish shops in Namibia. Despite that, neither Samherji nor myself did know he was the owner. Samherji provided fish to the fish shops and paid all the expenses relating to the fish shop company. Later, Samherji found out about this at some point and had the ownership transferred after Mr. Stephenson had emptied the fish shop bank account. Do you have any comment on that?
My lord, these are the fish shops that I took over, my lord. They are talking about here. So yesterday testified that Johannes embezzled all the money from the fish shop, according to Mr. A.
And please take us through paragraph 12 and 13, and then you can give us your comment, and then we can close on this particular affidavit.
I do not know for sure if Mr. Stephenson used drugs during his time in Namibia. I have only information of his drug abuse from third parties. He was obtained away from office for a long period of time, which he may have done to hide his drugs abuse. He was often edgy and kept rubbing his nose. This may have been a sign of cocaine usage. It was also during the same time, in 2015, I noticed that Stephenson's behavior changed. He became more unpredictable. Mr. Stephenson will say one thing on Monday and something completely else on Tuesday, which was in contradiction with what he said earlier. It became confusion at times unpleasant at work under his management.
Any comment?
My Lord, this is a problem that the JV members had with Johannes Stephenson. He was not doing his work. Whenever he sees that you have messed up, then he will run to me. Please advise. While he keep on repeating, doing the same things, my Lord. He doesn't listen. And I have testified that, my Lord. Now it's clear here, my Lord.
We then proceed, my Lord, to seek leave to hand up the affidavit of Mr. Peterson to be marked as Exhibit B20.
Typing.
From the state on the objection.
The court pleases, my lord, my objection against this document is similar to my previous objections to similar documents.
Thank you. Exhibit B20.
Document number 9 under the bundle of documents.
And then, my Lord,
Identify the document for us.
it's an affidavit filed in the poker.
Who is the deponent? Page 2.
Jacqueline N. Tiad.
Do you know whether or not Ms. Tiat is a witness in this particular case? A state witness.
Oh, she's not, my Lord.
Is she not?
Where is she?
I think we can quickly establish that. We have the witness list there.
She's not. Where is she?
But to save time, we can get back to that one, whether or not she's a witness. Are you back at the affidavit?
Someday, my Lord.
At paragraph 3, she states, I'm a shareholder in Cinco Fishing, a JV formed by 5 local companies around Namibian fishing quota through a company named Casidra Fisheries, in which I'm a 20% shareholder. Are you aware that she's a member of JV Cinco? JV2, I think, Cinco, yes.
Yes, my Lord. I'm aware.
And have you met her before?
Yes, Jackie, I met her before.
Okay. Have you worked with her?
Yes, my Lord.
Did that include your consultancy work?
Well, I did not work with her. We've been in contact, dealing with prices, getting fish from Semeji. She's the one who was running the operation at the time. So to get the new prices, you have to talk to Jackie.
Is this the same Jackie that you testified to earlier when you were referring to the email that you've received?
That's correct, my lord.
In paragraph 5, she then states, I began working for Mr. Stefansson in February 2013. I was working as a consultant for Atriknem Fishing, Mermaria Seafood through my own company, DD Import Export. At first, I worked from my own office, but in 2012, I was brought into the office of Arctic Nam Fishing and Mermaria Seafood, Namibia, and from that time on, I worked as an in-house consultant. From the year 2017, I also worked for Saga Seafood, Namibia. Paragraph 6, from the middle, she states that for a short period from June 2018 to March 2019, I was employed by Escha Holding when I took on the position of sales manager in Namibia. Later that same year, Samherji ceased all operations in Namibia. I do not work for Samherji anymore. Any comment?
Comment, my lord. Clear.
And at paragraph 11,
I'm there, my lord.
he then goes on to state that during my time working for Stefansson, I did not know how well informed he kept Samherji managers in Iceland regarding the Namibian operations. However, I found out after Mr. Stefansson was fired in 2016 that he had told Samherji managers in Iceland very little about the operations in Namibia, as they seemed to know almost nothing about what was going on. I believe Mr. Stefansson, the reason for his poor disclosure may have been for the fact that he had something to hide. Have any comment on that?
Comment, my lord.
At 12, she goes on to state that one thing I found particularly strange is that Mr. Stefansson owned the fish shops in his own name, even though Samherji Group paid all retailed expenses. I don't believe anyone within Samherji Group knew about this until Mr. Olafsson came down to Walfish Bay in March 2016 and realized this. In my opinion, this sums up how little Mr. Stefansson told Samherji managers in Iceland about what went on in Namibia. Now, in this statement from Ms. Chekitea, she's referring to shops that were in the name of Mr. Stefansson, although they belong to Samherji Group. Do you know anything about this?
No, my lord. I know the fish shops were under Curry, and the whole time I thought Curry was Samherji's company. So Johannes Stefansson operated these fish shops under Curry.
Okay.
These are the fish shops that I later took over when Mr. Ale Arneson, when I met Mr. Ale Arneson. Well, after he told me that he was authorized by his superior to close down 2 fish shops. Considering the employees, and I negotiated to purchase the fish shops from Samherji, for which I took over under my business, JTH Trading, CC.
And to whom did Curry belong? The company Curry. Do you know?
This one was now Curry 123. Used to be Curry 123. The shelf company. The Curry that I had an agreement with is Curry 180.
after being introduced through his girlfriend Sharon Nyuhembu, who is also a 20% shareholder in Casidra Fisheries. Later, Mrs. Nyuhembu brought James to a meeting in Cinco Fishing to convince all the shareholders to go with Samherji as operators. In my opinion, it was a very good choice going with Samherji, as it is a company with extensive knowledge in the fishing industry. She goes on to state, however, I found it quite strange how hard James Hatuikulipi was trying to convince all the shareholders to choose Samherji. I believe he and his girlfriend, Mrs. Nyuhembu, had some kind of scheme going on. Can you comment on that?
Lord, this clearly shows that James was working hard to convince the JVs, right holders, my Lord. This is clear. Sharon Neumbo, in my affidavit for my previous bail, I've indicated in my affidavit that Semeji, they've indicated to us how they met a right holder by the name of Sharon Neumbo, who by coincidence was James' ex-girlfriend, and James called her over. Notwithstanding her remonstration that Semeji was offering lower price per ton for horse mackerel. So this is the Sharon Neumbo that they are talking about, my Lord. You go into my affidavit, it should be clear, my affidavit, my Lord. Or must I indicate the page, my Lord, of the affidavit?
Can you proceed, my Lord?
You may proceed. Oh, we can proceed. Yes, you made reference to.
Okay, my Lord. Thank you, my Lord.
We are still on that affidavit, Mr. Hatuikulipi.
Okay.
We go to page 10 of that affidavit.
Page 10.
Yes.
I'm there, my Lord.
At paragraph 33,
I'm there, my Lord.
Mr. Theat then states, Mr. Stephenson could often be very irrational. In 2016, I noticed he had completely fallen off the trail. He was always in Cape Town, and sometimes he had me come with him. In July 2016, I was in Stellenbosch in South Africa visiting my son when Mr. Stephenson asked, as it pleased the court, my lord, I appear on behalf of the applicant in this matter, together with Mr. Richard Metcalf and Roberto Avila.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. Morning, Mr. Flip.
Mr. Hatuikulipi, how are you today?
Fine, thanks, how are you, my Lord?
Do you recall, I believe it was either Monday, yes, it was on Monday, that you testified concerning the income that you made from your fish shops across Namibia?
Yes, I do recall, my Lord.
And you wanted to refer the court, or you referred the court to certain extracts from your bank statements.
That's correct, my Lord.
My lord, we have provided the complete bank statements to the state, my lord. I also have a copy here for the court's convenience. I beg leave to provide court with a copy. And also one for the applicant. May I proceed, my lord?
Yes.
Mr. Hatuikulipi, I want us to just briefly deal with these bank statements. So in essence, what I would require you to do is, what I would ask you is to identify the document before you, firstly, and then we can turn the page and then we can go through the banking transactions in those particular bank statements. Is that okay with you?
Okay with me, my lord.
Okay. We can start off with the first page. Can you please identify that document for us?
My lord, this is a bank statement for JTH Trading CC for January 2019, my lord.
And what was the funds received into their account, into JTH's account for that month?
1.8 million 98,087.25 cents.
And if you can recall, from where do these funds come?
Lord, some of these funds come from my 5 trading fish shops.
And you previously testified that the fish shops are in, I can recall, 2 in Windhoek,
Correct?
1 in, is it Oshakati?
Correct?
Is there 1 in, and the other 2?
One in Ondangwa,
Ondangwa
Chicago.
and Oshikango. Now, how do these fish shops operate on a daily basis?
Repeat your question.
How do the fish shops operate on a daily basis? Do they sell the fish and the money that they get, or if they get any money, what do they do with it?
My Lord, they sell the fish daily, and money is paid by the clients by cash. Then the money gets deposited into the banking account of JTH Trading CC. Sorry.
And who would normally make these deposits into JTH Trading's banking account?
The employees, my Lord.
Now, I want us to go into or at least touch on a few particular transactions in that banking statement. Can you please turn the page? Page 2 of 5. And that is for January.
It's a second, my Lord.
Yes. My lord, may I hand the applicant a ruler just for easier referencing?
I'm there, my Lord.
We can start off with the first one, 31 December, cash deposit. You can take us through that one and tell us for what that money is.
My Lord, it's not 31 December, it's 2nd January.
On the bank statement, on
Yeah.
top, the first one.
Oh, okay. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm there.
Okay.
My Lord, this is a deposit
Mhm.
from the fish shop from Chicago, deposited by Ruth. Ruth is one of my employer, my Lord, from Chicago. An amount of 7,085 was deposited that day, my lord.
You can now go to the 2nd of January.
My lord, 2nd of January, it's a cash deposit from Angwena, from the fish shop from Oshikango, deposited by Ruth, 19,550.
And if you go down to the 3rd of January, another cash deposit.
My lord, the deposit from Oshikango, deposited by Ruth, my employer, 14,385.
And just below that one,
My lord, is a cash deposit from the fish shop in Vanaheda of 97,028, deposited by Toivo. Toivo, at Vanaheda, there are 3 businesses on one building. One is a liquor store, a fish shop, and a butchery. So Toivo work for a butchery there. So whenever they go deposit the money, because the owner of the butchery was in charge of the fish shop, so he always sent some of his worker to go deposit. So this is the deposit from the Vanaheda fish shop, 97,028. The same day, on the 3rd of January, the cash deposit from my worker, same for the fish shop of Ondangwa of 82,585.
and then we can go to the 4th of January.
4th of January, my lord, the cash deposit from the Oshikango fish shop from my employer Ruth, 11,660. The same day, the cash deposit from Toivo, 19,400.
For which fish shop is that?
The one in Ovanainda,
Okay.
in Windhoek.
And then on the 5th of January,
5th of January, my lord, the cash deposit from the fish shop of Vanaheda, 29,622. The same day, the cash deposit from the fish shop from Ondangwa, my employer, same, 18,520. The same day, the cash deposit from the Oshikango fish shop, $11,007, $0.10.
and just briefly touch on the 7th and the 9th, and then we can move on to the next page.
My lord, on the 7th of January, the cash deposit from the fish shop from Vanaheda, from Pendapala, of 44,615. The same day, the cash deposit from the fish shop from Oshikango of 8,875. The same day, oh, sorry. Okay, this one is done.
On the 8th,
On the 8th, my lord, the cash deposit from Vanaheda fish shop of 13,640. The same day, the cash deposit from Oshikango fish shop of 12,355. The same day, the cash deposit from Ondangwa fish shop of 18,950.
you can skip the 9th and maybe just touch on the 10th, and then we move to the next page.
Must skip the 9.
Yes, the cash deposits of the 9th. I think otherwise we will sit here the whole day. We have to go through every transaction.
Or then I skip to the, okay. But there is a deposit here on the 9th. From,
Okay, take us
on
through.
the 9th of January, there's also a cash deposit from Ondangwa Fish Shop, 9,740. The same day, there's a cash deposit from Oshikango Fish Shop of 10,875.
On the 10th,
The 10th, a cash deposit from Ondangwa Fish Shop of 6,690. The same day, a cash deposit from Oshikango Fish Shop of 10,115. The same day, a cash deposit from the Vanaenda Fish Shop of 48,705.
then if you turn the page, on 10 January, what is that ATM payment to? You can start off with that first payment.
Which one, my lord?
We are now on page 3 of 5. The page numbers are here at the bottom.
Yes, I'm there.
Yes. 3 of 5 on the 10th of January, ATM payment to?
Receiver of revenue
For what was that?
of VAT.
Okay. And then on the 10th of January, can you take us through that payment?
You mean the second one or the third one?
The third one.
My lord, is a payment from JTH Trading to Carry Investment for the fish that I bought from Semeji of 344,645 and 69 cents.
So is this what you testified earlier, where you would say you would buy the fish from the Samerji group of companies and then you would sell it?
Correct, my lord.
And what you took us now through is, would your employees then, on a daily basis, as they are selling the fish, deposit these amounts into the account of JTH Trading?
That's correct, my lord.
Now, there's a number of cash deposits. If we go to the 11th, the 12th, the 14th, 16th, and 18th, just on that particular page. And it lists cash deposits. It lists them all as cash deposits. And it's the same names: Ruth, Toivo, Sam, Toivo, Ruth, Penda, Ruth, Toivo. And some of the amounts vary from 34,400, 33,255, 34,285, 53,125, 27,000 and 31,000. Just some of those amounts. What are those amounts that were deposited into the account?
From the sales of fish, my lord. From the fish shops, my lord.
And I don't want to labor this point. I think we can move on from the bank statements of January and then we can go to those ones of February. Now, Mr. Hatuikulipi, I want you to be very brief when it comes to the bank statements because there are quite a number of them that we have to go through. And I don't want us to highlight each and every single payment, but you can just identify the document and just briefly highlight for us a few transactions where cash deposits were made by your employees into the bank account, if any, and also if you've made any payments to the Samerji group of company for the purchase of fish. Is that okay with you?
So repeat your question, my lord.
As we are going through the statements, in order for us to save a bit of time and not to extensively go to each and every transaction in your banking statements, I just briefly want you to highlight what is the document. You just identify it. You then go into the banking transactions. You just highlight a few transactions where cash deposits were made and payments that were possibly made to the Samerji group of companies for the fish.
Okay, my lord.
So we can just lay the foundation and then move along from these bank statements.
Okay, my lord.
Okay. So we are now at the second set for February 2019. You can take us through.
My lord, This is a bank statement of JTH Trading for February 2019. Funds received was 1.8 million, 52,878.60. On the 1st of February, there was a cash deposit from the Ndangwa Fish Shop, 13,250. That same day, there was still a cash deposit from a Chicago Fish Shop, 10,475. That same day, there was also a cash deposit from Vanaenda Fish Shop of 32,745. You go to the 4th of February, JTH made payment to Carry Investment, the major subsidiary, 296,899.18. We go on the 6th of February, there was a cash deposit of the Chicago Fish Shop of 12,180.
You turn the page and then you take us from the 9th. Just touch on one or two transactions.
The 9th.
On the 9th of Feb, or let's say the 11th of February. The following page.
11th. The cash deposit from Ndangwa Fish Shop, 24,517.65 cents. Vanaenda Fish Shop, 78,148. Angwena Chicago Fish Shop was 5,783.
And these cash deposits, were they then made throughout the course of the month of February as well?
Correct, my lord.
Okay. We can then move over to the month of March. And then you just also identify for us the statement and briefly take us, just highlight one or two transactions.
Okay. My lord, this is a bank statement of JTH Trading for March 2019. Funds received 5.2 million, 31,563.25 cents. Second of March was a cash deposit from Ndangwa Fish Shop of 21,570. Same day, there was a cash deposit from a Chicago Fish Shop, 19,270. Same day, it's a cash deposit from Vanaenda Fish Shop of 49,010 cents. On the 4th of March, there was a payment from JTH Trading to Semeji, Carry Investment, 340,929.
Were there further deposits made, cash deposits made from the sale of fish throughout the course of that month?
Repeat your
Were
question.
there further cash deposits made from the sale of fish throughout the course of that month?
Yes, on the 6th of March, there was a cash deposit from a Chicago Fish Shop of 12,310. The same day, Ndangwa Fish Shop, 8,430.
Okay. I think we need not deal with the entire month. Let's move on to the next month. 30 April 2019. You can take us through.
My lord, this is a bank statement of JTH Trading for the month of April 2019. The 1st of April, there's a deposit from myself for the fish shop for Kuriangava, 32,766. The same day, there was a cash deposit from Vanaenda Fish Shop of 29,165. Same day, there was a cash deposit from Oshikango Fish Shop, 10,245. The same day, there was a cash deposit from Ondangwa Fish Shop of 6,263.
Let's go to the next page. Identify just one or two transactions for us on that page.
On the 9th of April, cash deposit from Vanaeda Fish Shop. On the 15th of April, there was a cash deposit from Okuriangava Fish Shops deposited by myself of 41,205.05. That same day, 15th, there was a cash deposit from our Chicago Fish Shop of 3,460. That same day, on the 15th of April, JTH Trading made payment to Semeji Group, carry investment of 329,999.40 cents.
Does that continue throughout the course of the month, the cash deposits and payments to the Samerji Group of companies, carry investments?
That's correct, my lord.
Let's move on to the next statement. May.
My lord, this is the bank statement of JTH Trading CC for the month of May 2019. Fund received 1.9 million, 53,490.90 cents.
And then you can identify for us transactions on the 2nd of May and then perhaps the 3rd of May. Cash deposits, if any.
2nd of May, the cash deposit from the Vanaida Fish Shop, 38,036.30 cents. That same day, there was a cash deposit from a Chicago Fish Shop of 15,605. That same day, there was a payment from JTH Trading to Semeji, carry investment, 151,855.20 cents. On the 3rd of May, there was a cash deposit from Okuriangava Fish Shop, 49,501 deposit by myself. Same day, cash deposit from Oshikango, 6,000. Same day, Ondangwa Fish Shop, 7,406.70 cents. Same day, Vanaenda Fish Shop, 17,220. Same day, Vanaenda Fish Shop, 37,740.
Which days are those now?
6th of May.
6th of May.
Yes, sorry, man.
Okay, we can skip the next page and then just touch one or two transactions on the 15th of May.
15th?
15th May.
15th of May, cash deposit from a Shagati Fish Shop, 51,620. Same day, cash deposit, Shagati Fish Shop, 15,070. Same day, cash deposit, Shakati Fish Shop, 1,125. Same day, cash deposit, Kango Fish Shop, 5,810. Same day, cash deposit, Panaeda Fish Shop, 8,875.
Okay, I think we get the point for the month of May. Let's move to June.
Lord, this is a banking statement of JTH Trading CC for the month of June 2019. Fund received 1.7 million, 35,111 and 45 cents.
And if you go to the 4th of June, what is the first payment then? 4th of June, just identify that one for us.
4th of June is VAT payment to the receiver of revenue of 144,429.47 cents.
And then we can skip most of the transactions and then just briefly deal with the 8th of June, some of those cash deposits.
8th of June, cash deposit for Kuriangaba Fish Shop made by myself for 41,875. Same day, cash deposit for Dangwa Fish Shop, 29,370. Same day, cash deposit of Shakati Fish Shop, 47,795. Same day, cash deposit for Chicago Fish Shop, 15,825.
Let's move to July 2019.
My Lord, can I have water? Thank you, my Lord. My Lord.
What document is this?
Which month did you say?
July 2019.
July. Okay. My Lord, this is a bank statement of JTH Trading CC for the month of July 2019. Funds received 1.1 million 95,543 and 30 cents.
And that amount, the credits that have been received into that bank account, in respect of what does it relate? Just briefly.
Excuse me?
The amount received into the account of JTH Trading, that 1.1 million for that month of July 2019. In respect of what were those funds received?
Selling of the fish?
Selling of the fish.
Correct.
And are those reflected in the bank statements for that month?
Yes, they are, my Lord.
Okay. If we can then move on, this will save us much more time.
Yeah.
And the one for August 2019.
Now, my Lord, can we just go back to the one for July?
Okay.
On the 8th of July, JTH Trading made payment to Semeji Group, carry investment, 321,760 and 80 cents. That same day, JTH made another payment to Semeji Group, carry investment of 325,703. That same day, my Lord, the 8th of July, JTH Trading made payment to Semeji Group of Company, carry investment, 367,804 and 80 cents. Okay, now we can move, my Lord.
And those payments were for?
The fish that I bought from Semeji Group of Company, my Lord.
Okay. Then we are at August 2019.
My Lord, this is a bank statement of JTH Trading CC for 30th for the month of August 2019. Funds received 3.6 million, 96,629 and 19 cents.
And for that month, did you receive any funds from the sale of fish?
Yes, my Lord.
Okay. We can then move to the month of I'm sorry, and those amounts, just to be, not to go into detail into those pages, there's a page 2 to page 7 for the month of August. Are those cash deposits reflected there?
Yes, they are, my Lord.
Okay. Let's go to
That's right.
September.
September.
We've just finished August, I believe. September.
My Lord, it's a banking statement from JTH Trading for the month of September 2019. Funds received 2.9 million, 38,486.52 cents.
And of that amount, were there any amounts received for the sale of fish for that month?
Correct, my Lord.
Now, those reflected in page 2 to 6 of those bank statements. Sorry?
Repeat
There
your
he
question.
is.
Repeat your question.
The cash deposit that you're saying for the selling of the fish that you've received, are they reflected in page 2 to 6 of the bank statements for that month?
Yes, they are, my Lord.
Okay. Then we can go to the last month.
My Lord, the bank statement of JTH Trading CC for the month of October 2019. Funds received 1.7 million, 97,813.40 cents.
Mr. Hatuikulipi, you testified that you were arrested in November 2019.
That's correct, my Lord.
So, and these statements were just a month before your arrest.
Correct, my Lord.
Let's just briefly touch and see what amounts of money the fish shops made just prior to your arrest. When we go to the 7th of October,
7.
7 October.
I'm there, my Lord.
You just briefly touch on 7 and 8 October.
The cash deposit from a Shakati fish shop, 22,535. Same day, cash deposit, Dangwa fish shop, 51,943.20 cents. Same day, cash deposit, Shikango fish shop, 12,805. Same day, cash deposit from Vanaeda, 19,280. Same day, cash deposit, Kuriangaba fish shop, $161,011.40. So continue.
Yes.
On the 8th of October, cash deposit from a Shakati fish shop of 38,380. Same day, Chicago fish shop, 23,265. Same day, Dangwa fish shop, 25,365.
And does it go on like that for the rest of the month?
Correct, my Lord.
And you earlier testified, Mr. Hatuikulipi, and when I say earlier, I believe it was on Monday, where you indicated to the Honorable Court that during the month of January to November 2019, just during that period, until prior to your arrest, how much money did you make from the fish shops?
A lot. Like what I said, I was not certain which amount should be 20 or less than 20 million there. Should be there. I did not get time to put them together.
But that's an estimate.
Estimate, yeah.
Okay.
Should be there.
But you also testified that the total amount for the monies that JTH made for that period, January until, I believe it's October 2019, was 28 million.
That's correct, my lord.
And when you were taking us through your bank statements now, it would appear that on a daily basis, that there are large amounts that are being deposited into the account of JTH Trading.
That's correct, my lord.
Was it a lucrative business?
Yes, it was, my lord.
How does one open a fish shop? I think I should change my trade.
No, I cannot give my secret away, my lord. At least now that people will know. You will see a lot of fish shop being opened now, my lord.
I mean, certainly, Mr. Hatuikulipi, if you can deposit 50, 60, 80, various amounts in one day, but it's quite impressive. My lord, if there's no objection, I beg leave to hand up the bank statements of JTH Trading for the period January 2019 to October 2019, to be marked as Exhibit B23.
Is it not going to be D? I
We can
remember
make it D, yes, the bundle is the, yes, my lord.
B, and
Yes.
there was C. I'm not sure what was Exhibit C.
Unless we replace these ones, my lord, put them under that number, because those documents are now just there in the bundle.
Which documents?
Sorry, my lord, we have already provided the bank statements, and they appear under bundle
Oh,
number 18.
okay.
And we can remove those documents under bundle number 18, and then we can insert these bank statements there, because it's the same, they are just now complete.
All right. Will that be in order, Mr. Ipinge? Thank you. So it will be B 23.
23, my lord.
Yeah. Exhibit B 23. Yes, Mr. Pip.
Yes, thank you, my lord. Mr. Hatuikulipi, before we move on and deal with the fish score matter, I just want to backtrack a bit to an aspect that you testified on Monday. During your testimony, you've indicated that this. Sorry? Sorry, my lord. Monday I was in an event booked off sick. I believe that should have been Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday. So on Wednesday, you testified that the state made use of experts and they consulted experts, and you also referred to auditors.
Correct, my lord.
Do you recall who these auditors were that the state used?
Deloitte.
Deloitte. And Did any of the personnel of Deloitte contact you to give your input in respect of that specific audit report?
No, my lord.
So there was no input from your side.
There was nothing, my lord.
Were you contacted or were you contacted by them?
No, my lord.
Okay. I think we can now move on and then deal with the matter of Fishrot. Do you have your summary of dispute there with you? A summary of substantial facts. My apologies.
Okay, sorry. Just a second now.
That on 1 May 2014, Mr. Bernhard Esau, the erstwhile Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, acting with a common purpose with his co-accused, devised a scheme in terms of which they would benefit from fishing quotas awarded to the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, Fishcor, by the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. In furtherance of this scheme, Mr. Esau appointed Mr. James Hatuikulipi as the Director and Chairperson of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, Fishcor, Board of Directors. Mr. James Hatuikulipi is a cousin to Mr. TAMSON Fitty Hatuikulipi, who is Mr. Bernhard Esau's son-in-law. Mr. Bernhard Esau further nominated Mike Kipunya to be seconded to the Seaflower Group, and thereafter on 9 May 2014, accused one, I believe is Mr. Ricardo Gustavo. No. Accused one is Mr. Mike Kipunya. He was appointed as the caretaker and or acting chief executive officer, CEO of Fishcor, a position which he subsequently filled as the CEO. State further alleges that on 20 January 2015, the court ruled that the minister's decision to allocate, and this is now the High Court, to allocate quotas to entities which do not hold rights to harvest the specific marine resources in question, i.e. horse mackerel, with the exception of the trust, is invalid. The court's decision resulted in a further scheme by the accused to amend the provisions of the Marine Resources Act 27 of 2000, MRA, in order to benefit from fishing quotas, and this subsequently resulted in the promulgation of the Marine Resources Amendment Act 9 of 2015 on 24 September 2015, which contains amendments that made it possible for the Minister of Fisheries to award fishing quotas to non-right holders. Now, the state further alleges that the entity that was designated by the minister was Fishcor, and resultantly, the Ministry of Fisheries allocated 474,053.41 horse mackerel quotas to Fishcor during the period 2014 to 2019. And that Fishcor in turn entered into usage agreement or usage fee agreements with the Samherji group of companies And then they referred to Estia Fishing, Maria Seafood, Curry Investments, Saga Seafood, wherein Fishcore sold 228,000 metric tons of horse mackerel and funds totaling 81,880,500 earmarked for governmental objectives, which was for the public interest, but they were paid to some Hergie Group and Fishcore to the law firm of the Clerk and Kutsia Incorporated, and that the funds were then from there further paid out to you and some of your co-accused and some of the entities and your entities. Do you understand what the state is alleging against you?
Yes, I do, my lord.
Okay. And how do you intend to plea in respect of this Fishcore matter? Or at least the charges relating to Fishcore?
Not guilty, my lord.
Mr. Hatuikulipi, I will ask you a sequence of questions relating to what the state is in essence alleging. Firstly, they are saying that there was a scheme devised and that you acted in common purpose. And this common purpose was for the Marine Resources Act to be amended. Were you part of such a scheme?
No, my lord. I was not part of such a scheme.
Do you know when specifically the Marine Resources Act was amended?
I don't, my lord.
Do you know which sections of the Marine Resources Act was amended?
No, my lord, I don't.
Were you ever involved in any discussions with Mr. Bernhard Esau, your father-in-law, or the other co-accused, relating to the Marine Resources Act, how this act can be amended, and how fishing quotas can be awarded to Fishcore?
No, my lord.
And at that point in time, were you a government official during May 2014, 15, 16?
My lord, I'm not a government official, and I was never a government official.
And do you have any say in terms of how the law would be amended? How legislation that goes through Parliament can be amended? Do you have any say in that?
No, my lord. Not at my level, my lord.
In governmental objectives, the state is referring to governmental objectives that the quotas that had to go to Fishcore was for governmental objectives. Do you know what governmental objectives are?
No, my lord. Don't know what is a governmental objective.
And do you know of any catching agreements that were concluded between Fishcore and the Samherji group of companies?
No, my lord. I'm not aware of that sketching agreement between Semeji and Fishco.
You earlier testified that you were a consultant. Any of your consultancy work relate to setting up or negotiating an agreement between Samherji and Fishcore?
No, my lord. So I have testified that I was only involved in 3 catching agreements. JV2, Cinco, JV5, Epango, and JV7, Yuko. Those were the only catching agreements I was involved.
And were you ever involved in any discussion that Mr. James Hatuikulipi should be appointed as the chairperson of the board of Fishcore?
No, my lord. I was not.
Did you know that Mr. Mike Kipunya would be appointed as the CEO of Fishcore?
No, my lord.
Were you involved in his appointment, or was it even discussed with you?
No, my lord.
But the state are making all these allegations that you acted in common purpose. What do you have to say about that?
Lord, I did not act in common purpose with anyone, my lord. I'm not a government employee because they are talking about Fishco. Fishco is a government company. They're talking about Ministry of Fisheries. amendment. Those are things that need to deal with the Ministry of Fisheries. My Lord, me, I'm a businessman. I'm not a government employee. So there is no way I can be involved in such discussion, my Lord. And I was nowhere in the meeting to influence any decision of the government, my Lord.
And with regards to payments that were made by Fishcor or the Samerji group of companies to a company called DHC, a law firm called DHC, the Klerkhorn, are you aware of any payments that was made to them from Fishcor or the Samerji group of companies?
I was not aware, my Lord.
And any payments to Silax, a close corporation called Silax Investments?
Repeat your question.
Are you aware of the existence of a company called Silax Investments?
I came to become aware of it now, my Lord.
Were you involved in the setting up of this particular entity, Silax?
My Lord, I didn't know Silax, and I was not involved in setting up Silax.
But now what the state is further alleging, Mr. Hatuikulipi, is that you received payments, you or your entities received payments from Silax and DHC. Have you received any payments from them that you are aware of?
My Lord, I received payment from those two entities.
And for what were those payments that you've received?
Repeat your question.
For what were the payments? You said you received them. Why did you receive payments from those entities?
My Lord, as I have testified yesterday, there have been loans transaction between myself and James Hatuikulipi. So in paying back the loans to me, I received funds from the entity called Silax and GHC, my Lord.
And when you received these payments, could you see in your bank statements that these were clearly marked from Silax and or DHC?
My Lord, some they reflect as Silax and DHC. But when I went through the disclosure, on my previous bail application, I've explained this, then they say I received more funds. So when I went through the same amount that they said that I have received more, it does not reflect as Silax. It reflects as James, my Lord. So I will not know that that money is coming from Silax or DHC, my Lord. That's why I said I'm here to be released on bail so that I can get all the documents and prove during my trial all the loans and repayments of loans and the payment that I made to James for assisting me. So during the trial, once I have all my things in order, once I got an audit that will come do all my things, during the trial, I will explain each and every transaction. That this was for the loan, this is the money that was refunded. So I'll do that during the trial, my Lord.
Are you saying that these two entities, Silax and Bilax, belong to James?
My Lord, I did not find it strange when this money was paid from Silax. I thought the whole time these were entities owned by James, my Lord. Because James is having a lot of companies with weird names. He's even having a company called Earth 1908 Kwisebund. You might think it's a residential address for a house, but it's a company. So I thought he was the owner of those companies, my Lord.
So let's just recap.
Sorry.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're telling the court is, yes, that you received payments from these two entities, some of the payments that you've received reflects CLAX and DHC.
Correct, my lord.
Some of the payments do not reflect the name of these entities. They only reflect James.
Correct, my lord.
Okay. So those payments that only reflect James, could you decipher or identify that they came from CLAX or from DHC?
I cannot, my lord.
And that is basically what you are saying you want your auditor to do this reconciliation for you.
That's correct, my lord.
And you would be able to explain this adequately and in detail with the assistance of this auditor at trial.
That's correct, my lord.
You've indicated in your affidavit, do you have your affidavit that you filed in the initial bail application?
Just a second, my lord.
Do you have your affidavit then?
It's with me, my lord.
You have it page 26 of your affidavit,
26.
26, 409 of the record. Page 409 of the record.
I'm there, my lord.
Just give the court an opportunity.
Okay, my lord.
Are you there at paragraph 95?
I'm there, my lord.
Yes. There you've indicated that I do not know who owns CLAX Investments or DHC Incorporated. Now, I want us to clarify this point before we get to cross-examination. When you now just briefly testified, you said you thought that these companies could have belonged to James.
Correct, my lord.
How do you reconcile that then with when you are saying that you do not know who owned them?
What I'm saying now, I don't know who owned them. When I was being charged at the correctional facility, that time I was already arrested. So I was called by the ACC officials that I must go to the board room. So when I went there, they told me they came there to charge me on Fishco. And I asked them, what about Fishco? They said you receive funds from Fishco. Then I asked him, what funds? Then they say, okay, maybe it's from CLAX or DHC. CLAX, DHC. I say, okay, how much? Then they say, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. They were just doing like that. So I was charged. Mr. Florian was also present. So I was now wondering, CLAX and DHC. That's why I'm now saying I didn't know who owned it. But payment was paid from CLAX. But the whole time I thought it was James' company. But now, when I was being charged, when this whole story came out, CLAX and DHC belongs to Maren de Klerk. And I don't know who Maren de Klerk is, my lord.
Have you ever met with Mr. Maren de Klerk?
No, my lord.
Okay. Now, at paragraph 97 and 98, you, in essence, informed the lower courts that time that James instructed CLAX Investments to pay 1 million to your CCJTH Trading and a further 1 million to Irongo Clearing Forwarding CC. You see that?
I see.
Do you still stand by this version that you have informed the court that those payments you are aware of?
Yes, my lord.
But what you are saying, this is only in respect of a 2 million. I think it's about 4 million. It's in respect of a 4 million.
Which one, no?
You said Silax paid you a 1 million to JTH and 1 million to Irongo Clearing. That's
Correct.
2 million.
Correct.
Then at 98, you referred to DHC having paid one of your companies or JTH Trading 2 million.
Correct.
So that's a 4 million.
Correct.
You see.
Correct.
Now the state is alleging that you actually received more than this 4 million from Silax and DHC. Are those the payments that you said you could not identify?
Repeat your question again.
The state is alleging that you received more than 4 million from Silax and DHC. Are you aware that you've received more than that from those companies?
Which companies are DHC?
DHC and Silax.
That's why, my lord, I'm saying, when I went through one statement, the amount that they are talking about in the disclosure, it reflects as James. It does not reflect as DHC or Silax, my lord.
And if it does not reflect a DHC or Silax, would you have known?
Not at all, my lord. Sorry.
Is there anything else that you would want to add on the fish core matter?
My lord, I'm not a government employee. I'm not involved in the management of Fishco. I had no dealings with Fishco. I had no dealing with Silax. I had no dealing with DHC, my lord. And I don't know Maren Deklet.
Thank you, Mr. Hatuikulipi. We can move on to the last new fact upon which you rely for bail. Hello, I think before we move on to a new aspect, I think it's 11:15 now. It's an opportune moment, my lord, to have the tea break. Then we can reconvene it. We'll make it 20 minutes, my lord. Or 15. Perfect, my lord. Thank you, please.